Welcome back, or if it's your first time, I'm glad to have you here. I'm Matt Fendora, and you're tuned in to the Choose to Live, Love, and Grow podcast, where we journey together toward becoming the best version of ourselves. Using mind, body, heart, and spirit as the anchors of our podcast, join me as we set sail into the depths of self-discovery, unraveling the interconnected layers that shape our growth. If you resonate with today's conversation, consider subscribing to the podcast. Your support means the world to us and ensures you never miss an empowering episode. Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into another episode of the Choose to Live, Love, and Grow podcast, the podcast all about being the best version of yourself through mind, body, heart, and spirit. Today, I am here with Anya Pechko. Anya is a dedicated digital well-being professional on a mission to revolutionize our relationship with technology, enhancing our mental and physical well-being. With a background as a corporate consultant spanning 25 years, she has successfully transformed professional environments, integrating human-centric practices for remarkable business outcomes. Anya's proudest accomplishment, the ability to, on average, give you back 3 hours per day, which amounts to a little more than 2 months per year. What makes Anya's heart sing? Her dog son, Maximus. Without further ado, here's Anya. How are you doing today, Anya?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. Really excited for today's discussion because I feel like this is a topic that we really need to pay attention to, specifically because after the epidemic, we got so entrenched with our technology that we were stuck indoors, so that's what everybody gravitated towards. So to see how we can improve that relationship, I think is the perfect timing for that conversation is now.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for having me.
So my first question for you is, why digital well-being? Of all the things to do, why did you gravitate toward digital well-being?
That's a great question. It was really simple. I'm a performance coach, so I really enjoy in my work helping people perform well. And I noticed that people were not functioning well at a basic level of being able to monitor and have some type of systems around their technology use. So the numbers, the statistics, the data that we know that on average people spend around 10 hours per day on YouTube, on work from home, on Snapchat, on TikTok, on email, on text message, on looking up content. It's really taken away and disrupted every natural biological rhythm that human beings have. A lot of my work begins with just reminding people that we're a very complex biological mechanism. And so we have this very intricate but consistent way in which we all function, and it's the same. We have a circadian rhythm, and that is the most important rhythm that we have. It regulates our sleep and our waking hour, and that regulates the rest of our well-being. Everybody, we can definitely agree that if you're not sleeping well, every other potential aspect of you trying to do something better is not going to work properly. And so the phones have really disrupted our ability to function normally, from how we sleep to how we eat to how much we move. We spend 90% of our times indoors now.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's crazy. It's a very unnatural way for a human being to exist. We don't move our bodies. We don't get. One of the bigger things that I've been trying to steer the digital wellness conversation from, because there's so many aspects to it, is how many things during the lockdowns have changed our relationship with technology, how much of it has become an integral part of our lives, and how it has affected everything else. And so one of the big things we're seeing is the work from home phenomenon. Mm. Very big, very interesting subject. There's so many ways in which one can look at work from home and how comfortable it is and how easy it is. and how it eliminates a lot of the things that people used to have to do. And I can really see in one perspective, especially for working parents and wanting to be with their kids and kind of doing all these things. And then we have a completely different side to it where we don't go anywhere now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, and another thing that I think is really interesting when we talk about work from home is how much content I see that employee wellness program, mental health programs do not work. We have replaced so much of our existence with technology, and we've eliminated so much of people around us because we don't go to work now. And now we want corporations to fix our mental health while working from home, isolated, without any type of real human normal connection that one requires to succeed in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Learning how to work is about leadership. It's about mentorship. It's about mimicking behavior. It's about teaching. It's about learning. It's a part of man. It's just part of how we've evolved. That's how we learn. And now we companies are forcing young people to just kind of, stay home and work from home, which in fairness, not a lot of them are doing.
Mm-hmm.
99.9% of Gen Z wants to be in an office, right? Because they just don't have that same lifestyle as an older millennial or Gen Xers do. Very big push from them in work from home,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they know how to do their job. They've worked in office. They've learned how to do the social, the emotional, the business development, everything that happens in person aspect of it. And they now also have families.
From a digital well-being standpoint, do you think that a hybrid method is more important, or is there some kind of balance? Like what does the balance look like of working in the office and working from home? Is there an actual healthy way to do that?
I think that people should be in the office 4 days a week and consistently. Because there's another aspect to this whole conversation is at what point do we lose connection with each other so bad because you're allowed to work from home and I'm forced to go into the office?
Mm,
If you work at Trader Joe's and you work in Whole Foods, you can't work from home.
right.
If you're a programmer, you can work from home. If you're operating a train, you can't work from home. I think at some point it's going to create a really big class divide between people, but that's not my main issue. My main issue with isolation, being on computer all the time, being on technology, not getting up, not getting ready for work, not getting the sunlight you would need because you have to go to work, not meeting people on the way to work, not having contacts and friendships at work, not meeting somebody you love at work. Just, it's not just about work. And then another phenomenon, if we want to talk about how all of this, how digital wellness and the hybrid, the work from home, the return to office, if you're working from home today, you're working 24 hours a day. It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
We have not set up the rules to really work from home.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm your boss and I'm going to send you an email on Saturday at 2 because I'm working, and I'm going to say, listen, Matt, you don't need to get back to me till Monday. You're going to read that email. You may not get back to me till Monday, but I need to think about for a day and a half about getting back to me and thinking, should you have gotten back to me on Saturday afternoon? It's just how humans are. And then if there's another one of you, and I will email him, and say, listen, I haven't heard from Matt. It's been, 40 minutes on a Saturday. Can you do this for me? And they say, of course. And so on Monday, when you do get back to me, I'll say, I'm sorry, Jill is already handling that. And so there's all these little things that are now different. People demanding, there's this huge demand from people on wellness programs, on all these things they want employers to do, right? The only thing employer owes you is a salary. As far as being well, it is really our responsibility. And I think it's really hard to be well if you're spending more than a quarter of your life on tech and destructive tech. And I'll just give you a number. I just read this great book, The Attention Span by Gloria Mark. She's a pioneer in the space of digital well-being. And the statistics that she quotes in there are pretty incredible. If you take an average just at 7 hours per day on a screen over an 86-year lifetime, it's 24 years and 101 days.
Wow. Wow. 24 years that you're looking at almost a third of your life
in a screen, staring at this little box.
I think as somebody who is operating their own business, in my aspect, boundaries are so important because, like you said, you might get that notification at 8 p.m. and you're like, "Ooh, I need to answer this," instead of waiting until the next morning or something like that. So I think it's important, and from somebody who does work from home at times, is to set those clear-cut boundaries of, hey, at this point, you can no longer be on your phone. You have to be involved with somebody. You have to spend time with your family, not look at your email every 30 minutes to an hour. Focus on, this is the end of my day. Focus on your family now.
I think it's really hard to achieve because work is ultimately, it's connected to your survival, right? If we look at just your evolution, when that ping goes off, I agree with you. And I agree with you all these, 9 years ago, before the pandemic, nobody was emailing you at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
So now we have people working 24/7, as I said. Now you can learn how to set up boundaries around it. I don't know how you do that. What I think is going to have to happen is we're going to have to create new rules of engagement and what work is and how it works. And I think there's going to have to be a system that people are going to implement. We're going to have to, on a collective level, our productivity. So there's two ways that I look at what's happening now. There's a social and emotional element that we're paying and mental health decline. We are declining in every way possible. Even though we live in the best, most advanced age possible, we're not able to regulate and use the tech right now to our benefit. So it's using us. It is depleting our energy just because we don't have systems set up around it. And then the second aspect to this is there's a great cost to employers because they're getting a very distracted, very kind of emotional, very person that's not functioning at 100% right now. All of our biological rhythms have been disrupted. So I think the best way to address this is to help people understand what is happening by raising awareness of what is happening to them, to help people recalibrate their natural biological rhythms. I think there's a way that we know where human beings thrive. And right now we do not live in that space. And then I think it's really important to start kind of thinking, what does work look like? And I'd be curious to know what long-term work from home looks like, because right now, even though we're in it for 3.5 years, it does not look great at all. All of our stats as far as self-harm, isolation, mental health decline, loneliness, burnout, depression are on the rise. And so we now have to kind of think what has happened in the last 3.5 years that can affect people on such a big societal level. We had the lockdowns, tremendous trauma on everybody. Doesn't matter what state you were in. It doesn't matter if you were on the left, on the right, mask, no mask, pro this, pro that. Everybody were affected by it. Everybody knew somebody who got sick or somebody, right? Great collective trauma. Children traumatized. Just listening to their parents talk about it, listening to the news, not seeing faces, not developing properly. We've seen such an uptick in speech therapy lessons. Children are not developing properly. We've seen the entry exams to schools lower, the standards lowered rather than raising them. because socially we're not on the same level. We know that in a return to office, we see that Gen Z, those who have spent the last 2 years of college in a lockdown, we see them struggling. They're not able to, they have no spatial awareness. They have tremendous social phobia. They have tremendous sensitivity to criticism, which is how we grow. I don't want to know what I'm doing right. I want to know what I could do better. Tell me some of the things where you think I can improve, right? That's growth. And so we live in a system where, social media has augmented the entire reality for a generation of young women. What beauty is, how it looks, what's important about it. We have 8 and 9-year-olds using retinol makeup. Retinol takes a layer of your skin off. It's for elderly women that want to remove sunspots from their skin. It's a chemical.
Wow.
We have Sephora coming out with a makeup line for 8 to 12-year-old girls. You're not supposed to wear makeup at that age. Maybe some sunscreen. Maybe. Still, I always recommend people go in the sun at the right time, and then you don't need to put anything on, because we need vitamin D. So it's all these, and so I think all of the things that I'm talking about, which are just normal things, right? It's not, you should be sleeping well, you should be eating real foods, you should be sourcing your own food, right? We see mental health all connected to microbiome. When we eat synthetic foods, when we eat foods that are not real, that are processed, our guts get inflamed. When our bodies get inflamed, our brain gets inflamed. And we now, the most kind of famous, the way to get food is Instacart, all these ways. And I see people, they pack your groceries, they have a little list of paper, and they just go from aisle to aisle and pick this thing up, and you're just sitting at home eating a bag of Doritos and watching TV. We used to hunt for our own food, and then we used to sit around the fire and share that food and talk and speak. It's a great study out of the Netherlands. If you light candles at dinner, you eat dinner for 10 to 15 minutes longer. Human beings, it's in our DNA. Human beings sit around the fire and share food. We eat alone now. 21 out of 21 meals out of the week, the 3 meals that you eat, 11 of them you're supposed to eat with somebody else for your mental health. So it's all these things which technology has just completely has taken away from us. So it's not one thing, it's not 2 things, it's not 3 things, it's everything.
So technology has a lot of benefits, but obviously it also has those things that are harming us at the same time. So where do we meet in the middle for a good harmony of, I'm going to use this technology for good, but I'm also going to focus on improving my health at the same time, where I'm not going to let this one technology control my life, but where's that perfect point, that harmony at?
I think it's putting systems around when and how you use it.
So what would that look like? What would a good system look like then?
I think clearing up your phone of all notifications, that you're not notified that anything is going on, right? You don't need to know that you're getting an email. You can just look at your email at some point. You don't need to know that CNN or Fox News or New York Post or whatever, Google News broke a story. You can just look at news later. So take off all of the notifications. Offload offload social media to a secondary device. Create systems when you work, what that time work looks like, where your phone is. Learn what disruption looks like, how the phone is. I think understanding how the phone is disrupting us and what is happening will very much kind of be the first step to then understanding what are some of the steps that you can take to minimize that distraction. A lot of it is cognitive behavioral therapy, or just kind of the process, which is what psychometrics is, right? It's really What we're trying to do is help you change your behavior, your compulsive behavior, obsessive compulsive behavior, because that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You can say it's the same thing with alcohol, with drugs, with pornography. It's an addictive behavior.
Mm-hmm.
That's what technology is. And so we have all these systems in which we use all these other items. But you want to be able to drink some wine at dinner and not be an alcoholic. You want to be able to have loving and intimate relationships and not be a porn addict. And you want to be able to eat food and enjoy food and have it and share it as a experience with people you love.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing better than making dinner with someone or for someone
Mm-hmm.
and making it a family activity, from going to the grocery store to putting the recipe together, going to the grocery store, coming together, washing it, cleaning it, setting the table up, lighting candles. So it's really creating back to basics type of lifestyle where our life is a little bit simpler.
Mm-hmm.
And we went shopping for our food. That's what people used to do. We used to take care of ourselves more.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've made all the robots like AI around us do that, right? Uber Eats, Instacart. Again, we're just using technology and shortcutting everything.
I feel like there's a time and a place for that, but to do it all the time is just excessive.
That's that. I love that point. I was driving when I drove from, I was in Florida a couple of months ago, and I stayed there a lot longer than I should have. And I was coming back here on Christmas Day to make it for a Christmas Eve dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And we were all supposed to bring a dish. This was the first time in my life I ordered some herbs. I was going to make these pastries and some mushrooms. And so I drove really early in the morning. I got here at 3:30. I made these pies and I was at dinner at 5 o'clock. So yes, there are instances, and I thought it was great. They left these, I needed like 4 things. I just didn't want to stop at a store after an 8.5 hour ride.
Yeah.
And they delivered these 3 things in my doorstep in a paper bag and left it there. Oh my God, I loved it. It's like $15 for service, but I didn't care because I've never done it before.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I love the convenience. I love the fact that you and I can speak like this. And I think if it wasn't for the technology, we wouldn't have made it through the pandemic. Because I think I very much, I know how great the tech is, but we're just not collectively, it has really harmed us on a lot of different ways. And I think what we really have to talk about is how to create healthier relationships with technology, and then really reevaluate how technology affects us in our daily life, in our relationship with ourselves and with the world around us.
So a lot of that, I think, is what we can do personally. What can we do professionally that's going to help us improve our digital wellness? You've mentioned notifications. I think that's a big one in the workspace, but what else can we do?
It's a very controversial comment. I think people have to go back to work.
Mm.
I think people have to go back to work. I think that our long-term well-being, if we stay at home isolated, is just going to continue to decline. I think people have to go back to work. I think people have to have systems around work. I think it's going to help our society if there's some kind of a standard practices at work. Culture is not built on Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
the neck up, particularly because 71% of all communication is nonverbal.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much of life that we are missing. So much fun, so much joy, so much magic. Human energy there's nothing else like it. And I don't know, Matt, isolation is the worst punishment for mankind. And so I'm very hesitant to kind of talk about all these things that people should do while isolating and not going back to some kind of a new normal in terms of how we all connect.
Mm-hmm.
It is not sustainable for us to talk about wellness and continue to spend 90% of our time alone and isolated at home.
Mm-hmm.
So what can people do? People can start going out more. People should not use their phones when they're out. People have to have conversations when they are out at getting coffee at Starbucks. I mean, you walk into any coffee shop, it's like a funeral home today. It's unbelievable. It's like this. You know, you have these people with their stupid headphones. Like, oh my God, stay home if that's what you're going to do. Right. You know, we used to go into a coffee shop and be like, oh my God, can I get a coffee? It was really buzzy. People were talking,
Yeah.
would lean into somebody. Oh my God, what are you guys talking about? I was there the other night. I know, I saw, oh, did you like it? You saw that movie? That's amazing. None of that happens anymore. If you talk, if you say something louder, people look at you and like, don't look at me. It's not, this is not a library.
Mm-hmm. People go out of their way to,
It's insane. Stay home.
yeah, people go out of their way to get out of their homes to go to a coffee shop to quote unquote work in silence because they wanted to get away from somebody else.
It's so all of that, all of these. I mean, I always give this example. We used to brush our teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have an electric toothbrush.
Yeah.
We used to wash our clothes. Now we have a washing machine. We used to wash our dishes. We have dishwashers. We don't even throw our garbage anymore. We just step on a pedal. You know, I'm in a process of selling my home. I live in a third floor. I've lived here for 3.5 years. This may be a crazy comment. I've never been in better shape. I don't go out like I don't go to a gym. I've never been in a better shape in my life.
Mm.
I have a dog. I used to have 2 dogs. One died. She was really old. So I walk my dogs a lot. I'm up and down the stairs. Everything that comes into my house from the food that I myself buy and bring up here, all of that has to be carried up.
Yeah.
And then all of that has to be emptied out and all of that has to be carried out. I've never been in a better shape because how physical it is. And I see people that are coming here to open houses and just how, oh my God, the third floor. That is a built-in gym right there.
Yeah.
That is a stairmaster. That will keep you young and healthy and happy. It keeps your cognitive and critical capabilities, because you have to walk outside and go downstairs and walk down the stairs and not hold the handrail. It's unbelievable. And then upstairs, right, when you walk, there's a right and wrong way to walk. It's
Mm-hmm.
and we've stopped doing all these things. And so what I see that people can do is raise awareness, create awareness around their own behavior, and then create better systems around it and get a performance coach.
Mm-hmm.
We know that people perform better with behavioral change when there's somebody that they can be that there's somebody that is monitoring their progress.
Mm-hmm. Having that accountability partner.
It's huge. And that's why it's interesting. That's why what I do, that's why I've gotten so busy I've gotten really busy. I've been doing this for 7 years. I've gotten really busy in the last 8 months. A lot of it is because Gen Zers have gone back into the offices. They're not connecting in the proper way, right? They're not. There's this there's this whole thing of just kind of, you work for me and I'm your boss, and these are the things that I want you to do because I give you money. So that whole thing is missing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that employers are now trying to figure out what is the culture, what are the systems, what does it look like going forward? Because a lot of the employees coming on board are asking about mental health care plans.
Mm-hmm.
You know, safe spaces, kind of how many days we have off. Can I bring my dog to work? Can I work from home? None of the things that are really relevant to work.
Mm-hmm. People really ask if they could bring
So,
their dog to work.
I mean, yes, I asked that. Yes. If somebody's going to bring their kids to work, why can I bring my dog to work? My dog behaves 1,000 times better than every kid I see today. He just stands there. He doesn't bark. He doesn't, bite. He doesn't play. He just stands there.
Mm-hmm.
Where kids stay out of control.
Fair point.
So, yeah. Yeah, the parenting aspect of today is also very, very big topic.
So, what would a healthy relationship with technology look like? How could you tell, or better yet, how could you tell if somebody looking at somebody if they have that healthy connection with technology?
I can tell by spending time with them if they have an Apple Watch or not, if they take their phones when they're going to the bathroom or not, if you're talking to them, if they just, drop down and then kind of look at you and say, I was listening.
Mm.
I've been to dinner in the last couple of weeks, which is really crazy. My friends know what I do. Most of them are afraid to take their phones out in front of me. But if I'm ever at a party, or I was at a dinner, and this was insane. This girl sat next to me. She didn't know what I did. And she kept on wanting to show me her Instagram. And the friend across from me it was just really comical. I couldn't believe I didn't know. I kind of didn't want to make a big deal out of this and say to her, could you stop shoving your phone into my face? I don't really care about these stupid pictures. I think maybe my face might have said that. Because I think it's just that aspect is just less about our behavior and relationship with technology, but it's just more about having manners. It's the same thing. If I was talking to you, I wouldn't just, kind of like crazily, open my book, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that because our relationships are so fragile, kind of cracked, right? Not cracked, what's the fragmented right now. We're not able to really understand that that's just not polite.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's impolite if you are having coffee with someone and you say, excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom. And then you'll take your phone with you.
Mm.
Right. So I know that you're, I don't know, sitting on the toilet and checking messages.
Mm-hmm.
So I also think there's just a civil aspect to all of this. And I always wonder, okay, so you're in a toilet, you're doing your business, you have to put the phone somewhere. So you put the phone somewhere and then you're like, let me wash my hands. You wash your hands like really well and dry them up. And then you pick up that phone and you go, hi. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. Isn't it?
It's just,
Isn't there a study that shows that the phone is the dirtiest place
yeah,
out there more than the toilet
yeah,
is?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I also think that people used to have these ideas. Oh my God, I was in the shower today and I had this great idea. It's not the shower. It's just you were alone and you were able to think for a few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Our minds are so interesting. If you put interesting stuff into them,
Mm-hmm.
your brain is dried up because you're looking at TikTok videos nonstop all day and you're just getting this dopamine rush that is just frying your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're not going to have anything interesting to talk to anybody about.
Mm-hmm.
But traditionally, the more you fed your brain with intelligence, intellectual conversations, intellectual interesting facts, curiosity, your brain then goes into thinking about it and contemplating it. I mean, I told you earlier, I was listening to Peter Attia and Andrew Huberman. I'm almost done with the podcast. It's almost 3 hours. Sometimes it takes me 5 hours to listen because I keep on going back. I mean, today when I learned that we spend 90% of our time indoors and our daytime lights are too dim and our nighttime lights are too bright. And so that right there is very disruptive to our sleep.
Mm-hmm. So I just want to point out one question on that. So during daytime, if you're indoors, it's important to keep the lights up, correct?
In
Before.
the daytime, if you're indoors, you should be outdoors. You should be outside.
Hmm.
People should be outside.
Hmm.
People have to change their lifestyle.
Hmm.
If you're not feeling well, if you're depressed, go outside and sit on a bench. Make it a destination. Go to a park. Go outside, stand downstairs and look at the sky. Finding light, finding daylight, balancing our natural biological system is the first thing that we have to speak of when we're talking about being well today.
Hmm.
And it's really, it's just really recalibrating our brain.
Yeah, the reason I bring this up is when I'm at work, people like to point out the fact that I like the lights on. And I'm like, yes, because I'm setting my circadian rhythm here. I don't like it dark at, 11 o'clock in the morning. Like, what's the point? I'm supposed to be awake, not going to sleep.
Right, right, yes.
So now that we are nearing the end of the episode, I have three questions which I ask all the guests. I know this is going to be interesting to hear your answers because we discussed before of the color code personality, and so based off of your color code, I'm curious how the answer to these questions are going to be. So I ask one question on the topic of the podcast, which is live, love, and grow. So this first question is. What advice can you share about how to create a life that leaves a positive impact on the world?
Heal yourself first. Create space and a plan for making sure that you function the best that you can function in the world. And that means, shut everything off for 3 months and just go inside yourself and get up and do the circadian rhythm and sit in silence and let your body process and get your thoughts, get your shape in order.
Mm,
That's the first thing I would tell somebody who wants to make the world better.
yeah, I love it.
Leo, who was one of the greatest Russian writers, said everybody wants to help the world, but nobody wants to help themselves.
Mm,
So if you want to be the light in the world, make sure that you are the light first.
hmm. Yeah, they say it on the plane. Every time you go onto a plane, they say put your mask on yourself first and then help others.
That's exactly right. That's why they say that.
Hmm. My second question is, what are some practical ways people can cultivate self-love?
Refer to question A. What's interesting is that we don't invest in ourselves as much as we should.
Hmm.
We want a nice house, we want a nice car, we want a good computer, we like nice clothes, we're going to go on vacation, but they don't really nourish and invest into themselves. And so waking up and making sure that you have a system, around how you sleep and how you eat and how much you move and what you read and what you put into your body, what you listen to, what the voice is. And so I think creating a system where what you take in is positive, because today our system tells you that you're not good enough. I recommend the Modern Wisdom podcast by Chris Wilkes. Andrew Huberman podcast is incredible. I believe it's number one. It got number one to be number one in the last 2 years or something. It's fairly new.
Yeah.
I think Mind Body Green by Jason Wakeup is incredible. I think Peter Attia, he's a longevity doctor, is incredible. I think Jordan Peterson is incredible. And so if you're open up and if you're listening to, if your ultimate desire is to create a better life experience for yourself, which is what self-love is, is that go away for 3 months and start listening to people that are doing all these things that are the same thing. There are people already in this space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Chris Wilkes is one of the modern wisdom. He has a really incredible story that I think is really, do you listen to his podcast?
No, this is the first time I've heard about it, so I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's incredible. He's really great. He's really great. He talks about that when he grew up, he's a very good looking guy, grew up in London. He was worked at clubs and had access to really beautiful women and a lot of models and all this fun and all the money and the cars. And he just said, I felt just so empty. And people think, oh my God, this guy seems to have all these things that everybody else want, but none of that made him feel fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And so he read 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, and he was so inspired by Jordan's ability to kind of really dissect and really present with some of the moral and social issues that we suffer from. And then he gives you, these are the rules, follow them. And so Chris moved here from London and is in Austin, Texas, and now is one of the fastest growing podcasts talking about modern wisdom. He's into Stoicism and really practicing that self-awareness, self-reliance, and really look within versus blaming everybody else. You're not a victim of your circumstance. You can create, you have a choice and to create a better experience for yourself. It's just, it just depends how hard you want it and what you're willing to give for it. So that's what would be my advice in that.
Okay. And the last question I have is, what is one actionable tip someone can do today to grow 1% better?
Listen to my Wisdom's podcast. I think it's create a plan for the next 6 weeks.
Say that one more time.
It's to create a plan for the next 6 weeks.
Okay.
And what that means is programming that first week. So create a new plan I recommend that people read Atomic Habits.
Oh, yeah.
But that's a great book by James Clear. Also has an incredible story. Somebody hit him with a baseball bat by accident at a practice, and like 17 bones in his face broke. And so he had to recover. It was very young. And he always talks about, it's not really that first week that you want to do something. It's really about what is the implementation for the next year. And so I very much recommend people set up a week of new things that they're going to do every day, and then do that for 6 weeks, and they have a new life. And then if they do that for 3 months, then you're kind of like on a way to become a brand new person.
There's one other book I would recommend in that. It's a book that just came out this month. It's called The Habit Revolution by Dr. Gina Cleo. Hopefully I'll have her on the podcast soon. So she's already agreed. We just have to find a time to get her on. Great book. And I think it's the next best thing since Atomic Habits. Like, nobody's really talked about habits. It's a phenomenal book and really goes into the science behind behavior change.
Oh, I love that. I'll make sure to look it up. I'll get her name from you after this, because that sounds like something I'd love to read.
So how can people connect with you?
Via LinkedIn at Anya Pechko, or anyapechko.com. I also run a called Project B, projectb.com. It's incredible, has a lot of information and data. How can we support you on your journey? Share my message. I work with companies and corporations, and I help them rediscover and put these new systems into their employee engagement and culture protocols. Awesome. Well, and I bring my dog to work. Anya, thank you for being on here. I think this is such an important topic, and I really hope that this message gets out there and people recognize, hey, maybe if somebody decided, you know what, I should put my phone down, then I think the point got across, and that's what I'm hoping for after this episode. And then this is the last thing, is be bored. We can talk about this next time, but boredom is really an incredible tool that I also use for people to stay off. Just it's okay to be bored. I think with how technology is now, I think that's a great concept. Back in the day, I grew up bored and I hated that concept. And I think that's also how it affected me into staying busy with like 15 different projects. But That's another conversation, my friend.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being on here, Anya.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Choose to Live, Love, and Grow podcast. I look forward to seeing you next week. Don't forget to live, love, and grow to be the best version of you. Oh, and one more thing. If you or a young man that you know suffer from victim mindset or are not reaching their fullest potential, then visit mattfendora.com to see how we can work together to become the best version of ourselves. That's mattfendora.com. The link will be in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you and have an outstanding day.